Hello, welcome into the 2025 Coaches Show. Gary Ball with Mike Meehan, the one and only. We're here with the first coaches up. Will be from Tates Creek, Jonathan Hawks, fastest man in arena football. Oh, he's gone. He's down the line. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? And Nathan McPeak, the coach of Frederick Douglass, the Broncos. They're in here too. But I tell you what, Coach, we're looking forward to a great season this year on Frenchman.
Yeah, this is really fun. And with this setup that William has and this mobile studio, we can go to different games anytime we want to. Talk to these guys like this. You know, get them now where they're relaxed. They're still in practice. Try to talk to them before a game. Can't get anything out of them.
Well, this show, of course, is brought to you by Rafferty's Restaurants. We just had dinner at Rafferty's, and Coach, I think everybody was pretty pleased with their meal.
Absolutely. I had that open-faced prime rib, which is my favorite.
He loves that prime rib, I tell you. And as we say, we want to thank Roberts Insurance. They're in Richmond, Kentucky. They insure 3/4 of this great state of Kentucky with that catastrophic insurance. You know, they cover all the high schools, and it's a real important insurance. And Roberts Insurance on Main Street in Richmond will provide that for you.
Yeah, that's excellent. We've had a lot of sad things going on with these floods in eastern Kentucky, and hopefully they were insured.
Well, let's get right into the conversation with these two great coaches, Jonathan Hawks and Nathan McPeak. Jayhawk, you and I have known each other a long time. You're the coach at Tates Creek. Last couple years, I think you really brought them to where you're recognized in Lexington as a good football team. This year, I think you got a really good team.
Yeah, this year, I think the one thing. Can you hear me, Gary? Can you hear me? All right. I think the one thing about this season that I probably enjoy the most is just knowing that we got kids that's been with me for the last 4 years since I've taken over, and then you got the ones that's come behind them, and they just know the system. You know, you don't worry about people showing up late. You don't worry about people getting in trouble in the school building. Like, everything is pretty much moving forward like you want it to do.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, one of the things I believed in as a father and as a coach was to have kids that played multiple sports. And I know you've set a precedent, had a really good track program over there. How do you connect those two, the track team and the football team?
Yeah. So all my receivers, DBs, and even my throwers, they all participate in track. And so throughout the spring, I pretty much got to trust my coaching staff. I got to trust that they're going to do what they need to do in the off-season training. But I'm full-time track, and so how I correlate the two is forcing my kids to understand what the body mechanics take, the health, the way you have to treat your body in moments like this, and it's just something I preach every single day because I do it myself.
Well, can you give me an example right now on this team of kids that do track and football?
Yeah, so all 4 of my receivers that start, well, all 3. So I have two guys that we had a relay team that ended up getting runner-up at the state meet this year, broke a 15-year school record, and all 4 of those guys start receiver and DB for me. So, you know, these are guys that are with me all year, and you're just doing the best you can to just show them that the speed portion of it. I mean, I'm a speed guy. I'm from Georgia. McPeak knows about Georgia. That's all it is. People preach speed, and when you get it, you just want to show the kids here in Kentucky that we can run just like they do back at home in Georgia. So,
well, you know, one thing you say about speed, the Cooper guys on the outside provide a lot of speed for you. You're going to rely on them a lot this year, especially with your quarterback back and B.J. Evans in the backfield. Yep. You can really open up down the field, can't you?
Yeah, one thing about, I want to give JT and Luke a lot of credit. They've been with us 4 years and literally have just from the bottom to get to where they are right now. JT committed to Gardner-Webb University, but he measured out at 6'4", 195 and ran a 4.52 in front of a bunch of coaches. So it's kind of hard not to, you know, you can't pass up on somebody with that size and can do that. So, I mean, I'm proud of them guys because they've taken track serious, they've taken football serious, and they've just changed the way that their bodies look. So I'm excited about what they're able to do this year.
Well, before we get to Nathan McPeak, we'll come back to you. You open up Saturday night, I believe it is, at Mercer County. Tell us about that game.
Craig's going to have those kids ready to play. I mean, you know, me and Craig are teammates, and it's always a big deal when we play each other. And he's going to have those kids playing hard and ready to go. And so it's my job as a head coach, you know, for our team to make sure we're ready to go as well. I expect it to be physical, and it's going to be a later game, so it's all about how you prepare getting into that moment. So preparation right now is what I'm more focused on, more so than just the game itself. Like, how do we prepare to get to that game?
Nathan McPeak, the coach of Douglas, is in with us. Nathan, you lost a lot of talent off last year's team, especially a young man by the name of Avion Chanel, a great football and basketball player. How do you replace guys like that? I mean, they're so talented. At Douglas, you seem to replace them every year.
Yeah, I mean, Avion had a great year last year. He's actually doing really well at Western Michigan right now in camp. So he ran with the twos a couple days ago in their scrimmage. So, I mean, he's right there being able to play as a true freshman. So, you know, and we had 29 seniors last year. We had 29 seniors last year, 25 the year before. And, you know, we only have 12 seniors this year. So we're a relatively young team this year. Very inexperienced. It showed in our scrimmage against St. X on Friday. You know, we just couldn't sustain, you know, quarter after quarter, drive after drive, because a lot of our young kids aren't used to going that hard against a good opponent. So it's going to be a work in progress. This is probably the youngest team we've had at Douglas in probably 5 or 6 years. We have some talented kids, some good football players, but it's going to take some time. And you know, our schedule is very elite, very intense. We're playing some of the best people in the state week in and week out. So you better get going or you're going to get embarrassed.
You and I were talking, and then you said if you win 5 games, you know, you could probably be, with that schedule, though Trinity and all the teams you play, open up with Highlands, you could probably be the coach of the year. And I agree, if you win more than 5 games, you might be the coach of the year in the nation.
I don't know about that, but you know, joking aside, you know, and we want to win every game. We want to compete. Standard's a standard, but you know, we're definitely going to be battle tested. I just hope by the time the playoffs, you know, roll around, district time, you know, we're healthy. That's the only major worry about people we have to play is, you know, week in and week out. You're not going to be able to sub a whole lot of guys. You know, your guys are going to have to play week in and week out. So. But I think pretty much anybody that can win 6A, you know, we're playing on in the regular season. So, coach has done a really good job with his team, and you know, we're looking forward to playing against his team. He's got a really good group, and you know, but our first 3 games are pretty tough too. So, you know, we're on the road at Highlands, on the road at Trinity, then we play DuPont Manual at home. So our first 3, we'll know a lot about ourselves, that's for sure.
Coach, I've really admired the way you run that program over there.
Thank you.
In fact, you know, I'm pretty impressed with your whole family, because I've run into McPeaks before in other places.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that's impressed me is I know some of the kids that have been there that played, they're all young men, and I just wanted to tell you, is that part of your program where you build that man, that real football player into somebody special that can go on in life?
Yeah, I say it all the time, like in our program, you know, it's not for everybody. You know, we've had, it's not talked about a lot, but we've had more kids leave our program than we've had come in, and that's okay. And I'll support every kid, I love them. But Douglas football is not for everybody. The way we do things and, you know, the time commitment, you know, guys that play, we have a lot of guys that play basketball too, and they'll tell you, you know, it's a lot. Football's a lot. So, you know, we believe in our core principles. We believe in player development. You know, lifting weights, running, you know, making it, you know, more of a meeting and assessment, you know, just like class is. You know, it's a lot. You know, our system offensively and defensively is very college-based. You know, we give players a lot of knowledge, a lot of freedom, but it's a lot of the same things they're going to learn at the college level. So, and one thing I always ask our guys that we get signed places is, what can I do better? What do you feel like, you know, going in as a freshman, what are you good at? And I'm always getting a lot of positive feedback that they feel a little bit more ahead of the other incoming freshmen. And I take that as the ultimate compliment, you know, that they're prepared for that. And I can't, you know, mimic exactly what that is, obviously being a high school, but we try the best we can to try to for them to understand that this isn't a hobby. You know, if you want to do this and do it right, it takes a lot of commitment, and you know, that's kind of what we do. But I appreciate the kind words.
For Coach Hawks, I mean, you hear him talking about youngest team they've ever had. You're the only team in your district that hasn't removed Douglas or Bryan Station from your schedule. I think the streak's about 36. I mean, what can Tates Creek do this year to compete with Douglas? Because you asked me a couple years ago, is Douglas really that good? And I went, Douglas is really that good. What have you learned, and what is your team? How's your team rising up to that? Try to be at that level.
I think the first thing you got to do is pay respect to those who've done it before you, right? So when I took over Tates Creek, in my mind, I'm not going to take them off the schedule just because they've been whooping everybody's tail. I want to be there with them. You know, I want to compete. In order for you to compete, iron has to sharpen iron, and I'm a competitor. So my kids have had to grow and learn how to be competitive themselves, and I think Douglas has been that staple of a program in this city for so long that if kids could just realize, if you just work hard, like Coach just said, with his core principles and everything he's put into his program, if you do those same things, your program can too grow as well. But you can't duck and dodge every opponent just because of their name or because they're a little bigger than you are. None of that stuff should matter. Like, if you know how to train, you know how to develop, you know how to work, then those things will eventually get you to where you want to go as a program.
Well, I'll echo what Coach Meehan said to Coach McPeak. I think as a coach, one thing you brought to the table that really stands out to me is you brought a good background in being a good person, and you convey that to, because your players, if they think you care, they know you care, they're going to play. I remember doing Mike Yeagle's games back in the 90s, a coach at Beechwood, when he won 7 state championships. The thing is, when Mike Yeagle talked to his players, they go through a wall for him, you know what I'm saying? Because they cared about him, he cared about them.
Yes.
Just like Coach Big Peak said, he loves his players, and I know you do too. You're very good at working individually with your players.
Yeah, it's tough sometimes, and McPeak, he's even said this to me, like, being the head track coach, I give my heart to those kids the same way as I do as a head football coach, and I'm year-round. Like, we've already started training track in July. You know what I mean? Nothing has changed with me. Like, everything that I've been doing, because at the end of the day, those parents, they want their kids to go to college and track just like they do in football. So I can't let the standard drop just because I'm a head coach of another team. So everything that I do is through my hard work, and I would say the same for McPeak. It's all hard work. I mean, I demand a lot from coaches. You know, I demand a lot from the program, and if you don't have a demand, then you leave too much room for grade. You know,
you got to set the bar, don't you?
Yeah, you have to.
And kids respond to that. If I get both of you in the mic, talk to you both about your individual talent this year. I know you have a great back in B.J. Evans. I think he rushed for what? It was like
$17.99.
Like leading rusher in the 6A last year. And you have a young man backman named Talbert. You talk to us about Evans, what makes him such a good back, and what makes Talbert such a good back.
You go. Because I want to hear you.
Dakari is, I don't think he's talked about enough just because we did split our carries a lot last year. But, he had 160, 170 yards in Rafferty's Bowl last year against Bowling Green. And, we were kind of forced to move him around a little bit to get a little bit more athletic on the edges, playing some slot receiver because he's got good hands and doing some things. So he kind of had to sacrifice kind of what he's really good at for the betterment of the team. And he was only a sophomore, so that was a really good lesson for him to learn. But I do think he has the skill set to be in that top 10 players in the state of Kentucky, even as a junior. He's a kid that can take it, like he took it 70 yards against St. X Friday, and we didn't block it right at all. He's just being an athlete. So he's very explosive. He's a kid that you want to get the ball to, like BJ, and he can do it all. He can block, he can pass pro. He's up to 185 pounds. He's up 15 pounds from last year, which is credit to him. Coach touched on that a little bit with changing of bodies. That's big, especially if you want to get recruited out of high school now. With the portal, you got to look the part. You can't be what it used to be and wait. Colleges can't wait anymore. So, been on our kids about that, and he's just an all-around good back, and I expect big things from him.
I got to ask you, though, will he be like your Avion Chenault this year? Will he assume that role maybe?
Yeah, I mean, he's a kid that, we definitely want to get the ball to a little bit more, but we have 2 other good backs, but, he's a guy that we definitely want to get the ball to. And, Avion was a big threat out wide. Dakari's more of that running back, kid. So, we got to have some other guys step up to the plate at receiver. We got some good players, but, it's unproven like the rest of our team, really. So, a lot of guys have to prove that they belong starting this Friday, and we'll kind of go from there.
Well, Harmon, the young man that played for you last year, we had him on our show. He's a really good student. He's really well-rounded everywhere and everything he does.
Yep.
And he's going to wear number 72 this year.
Yeah, yeah. He just now finished all his cadet stuff
Yeah.
at Coast Guard, and he's in football camp right now. He's doing really well. Great kid. You know, obviously he did everything we asked him to do, and you know he's going to be great in the military.
And Jayhawk coach, you know.
No, I was going to say, let's go back a little bit, some X's and O's here. You both had scrimmages. We'll start with you, Jayhawk. What did you learn from the scrimmage? Did you see strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah, I'll start with the a weakness. A weakness of ours is we've been, you know, since I've taken over the program, we've been just trying to find an identity as a program as far as, you know, we have a chip on our shoulder just because that's just who I am. I mean, I don't know how to not work, so my kids have just kind of taken that on, but outside of that, you know, and showing up and doing the things you're supposed to do, I think the one thing that we learned from ourselves over this past 2 weeks is that we got to start faster. You know, we can't just wait to get punched in the mouth to see how somebody, you know, can swing. You know, we got to stop taking the first punch. We got to understand how to deliver a blow. And so if that was a weakness of mine that I got to say, kind of, it got us a little bit. We start slow, and then once we realize what we're capable of doing, even though it's a basic bland offense or basic bland defensive play style, we got to learn that regardless, we still got to come out and play fast. So now the strength is that we've gotten way more athletic than we used to be in the past. You know, we have a lot more speed on defense and on offense. We got a kid that's a sophomore that I really think could end up being one of the best DBs this state seen in, you know, in the past 2 or 3 years because he has a lot of speed and he's young. He's I don't know. I'm just thankful because our kids are really starting to buy into the hard work and the work ethic, and they're not afraid to play people anymore. It used to be, you mentioned, you know, a schedule, and they'll start, man, we're going to get our butt beat. But now, you know, they're starting to realize we work hard just like everybody else, so we deserve to play those good teams. And so, to Coach's credit, he's not going away from playing those tough teams. He has a really tough team they're playing this week. You know, like, we have to get to that place where playing Highlands and playing Trinity and St. X, those things don't bother our kids anymore. We're getting closer. You know, that thing is starting to really get to where that doesn't bother my kids' mindsets anymore. And I think that's how I'm starting to see that we're getting stronger. So I would take a positive and say our kids are starting to realize who we are. So now let's just take it to whoever we play against.
B.J. Evans is probably one of the best backs I've seen in Lexington in a while.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't get any credit at all.
Mm-mm.
At all. And I tell you what, I think he's in for a big year because he's got a lot of confidence with what he did last year.
Yeah.
How are you going to help him get to that point this year?
BJ got up to 215 this offseason, and BJ's fast. I mean, he's a different kind of back, but he got up to 215, and I had to get him to trim it down a little bit because he wanted to be a bowling ball, right? And but I told him a lot of colleges want to see him take it to another gear, being able to break tackles, but also being able to make some more shiftier moves. So he's kind of trimmed himself back down just to make sure that he's getting himself in a position to where he can not only be elusive but be fast and still have the power that he had last year. So I look for BJ to have a really good year, but not only because of the way he can play, his mindset's gotten different. He's not taking it so personal when the linemen don't maybe block the way that he's, you know, last year that was growing pains for him. You know, he was getting frustrated with certain linemen not moving out of the way, and he had to learn, I got to be more patient as a running back, because sometimes the blocks do take a while to develop, right? But it's got to develop. Yeah, so it took him a while to get there, but now that he's went through that first year, and this year it's just been more of a, I know what I got, so now let's go ahead and go get it.
Nathan, same question to you. Your scrimmages, did you learn positive, negatives?
A lot of negatives last Friday against St. X, but we hung in there for a little while, but they're really good. Kevin's done a good job with them. This is his last year there, so positives is for me just getting playing experience. Because at one time when I looked out there on our offense, we had 9 guys. That was their first varsity snap. So we only have 2 guys back on offense that have played varsity football. That's Dakari and Razion Gillespie, which is our left tackle. Those are only 2 guys. When I subbed a couple of guys, as kind of our, I call them 1.5. So when we're rolling some of those new guys in, that are playing. So they just need to play. They need to get out there and play. And like I said, our schedule is tough, obviously, but you learn by playing those teams and competing, and that's kind of where we're at. And it's a blessing to be in that position, but it's also very difficult when you have a youthful team. Something that we're going to have to go through. So I would say that was really a strength of just getting out there and doing it. Weakness is our conditioning levels. We've done a lot of the same conditioning we've done in years past, but again, where we are younger, those guys got amped up in pregame, and then they got tired by the second quarter. So they have to find that fine line, as like, okay, I've got a game to play. I can't get too up in pregame, and so I think some of our kids, we come in and they kind of understood that, especially today. So, I'd say weakness is that's something that we got to get better at, and obviously, we got to be able to play a certain way to compete with some of the people we got to play. Because a lot of teams we're going to play are going to be older, are going to be bigger, just because we have a lot of juniors and sophomores that we're going to be relying upon this year.
Practice is practice, Gary, but nothing beats a game experience.
Exactly.
Coach,
It's different.
right. Nobody will play. That's like Trinity. That's why Trinity was playing all these teams in Indiana, out of the area, because nobody was scheduling. But you had the desire to schedule Trinity, but you run into a little bit of that same dilemma they are, getting teams to play you, Coach.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's a lot of hard work by former coaches and players, and kind of where our program is. And with the RPI system, we did a couple out-of-state games a couple years ago. We were kind of forced to. We only played 9 games a couple of years ago. We had 2 bye weeks. So, in order to find 10 games, we're playing the best at 4A, 5A, 6A. So, it's kind of where we're at. But, we're lucky to at least find 10 games in state, because I'm sure Coach would attest to this. We played Akron-Hoban out of, Ohio and Cathedral. Akron-Hoban went 14-2. Cathedral went 10-3, and we got credit for playing 5-5 teams, because that's what the formula does in our RPI system in the state. So it really doesn't do you any good to play bad or good teams out of state. Trinity has to, obviously, to find 10, and it doesn't bother them as bad. But, for me, if I can find 10 in-state games, that's what you want to do, because you get more credit for it. So.
Coach, you're not as big up front anymore in offense or defensive line.
Yep.
You're an offensive line guy. What's the challenge to get these smaller guys? And you've had like one big guy just about every year up until now.
Right.
I mean, what's your challenge now to get those guys?
They got to play with better leverage. I think they found that out on Friday. But it's there's no secret formula to it. We are a little smaller. We are faster on the D line than we've been, but we are a little smaller just because I have no seniors on the O-line this year. It's the first time that's happened in a long time. So I have juniors and sophomores that are playing. So, it's going to be a lot of growing pains, but I think they'll get better as the season goes on. But you definitely got to play with leverage. Your 1 inch of leverage is 10 pounds of body weight. So, you got to play with better leverage, because, this week against Highlands, all 4 of their guys on the front are 280 plus, 300 pounds. So they're bigger guys, they're going to be stronger than us. So, you got to have some fight about you. And, there's really, again, no secret to it. You got to be able to come off the ball. That's one thing I felt like we didn't do in the scrimmage, is we kind of waited up front, O-line, D-line, where St. X was more coming across on us. And that's just inexperience, not being as big and strong as we can be yet. And that's just going to take time, right? So it's definitely a challenge. It's a concern, as we move through the schedule, that's for sure. But I think if we can stay healthy by the time, district rolls around and playoffs, for me, that's why I'm playing this schedule, is to get ready for November, because that's what it's all about, is that month, and trying to, win as many playoff games as possible.
Well, I think we got about 5 minutes left, Jayhawk. You'll jump in there. I want to ask you about your schedule. We mentioned you opened up with Mercer County in the Harrodsburg Bowl. What did the Johnson, his father, his bowl, and then Ashland comes. Yep. You go to Astor Place, and then you play South Odom, Douglas, Bryan Station, Ryle, Dunbar, Lafayette, Henry Clay, West Jasmine. You got a pretty good schedule too.
We had to schedule pretty hard because the last 2 or 3 years, again, just trying to get our kids used to playing tougher teams. If I keep playing teams that nobody's going to really give you credit for beating, then you're really doing a disservice to your kids, because there's a lot of colleges out there looking for. They're not crazy, they're not dumb. They know you're not playing anybody, so you're not going to get the respect that you deserve as far as playing some high caliber athletes. So the best thing that I can say about that, Gary, is that I think our kids are prepared for it. Ashland's going to be a really strong team. I know that me and Coach talked about it before. Ashland's got just as much talent as anybody else in the state. I mean, they're going to bring a busload of kids in here that's going to be ready to win a ball game. So we got to be prepared for that. And South Odom, they're going to be really tough. They're going to be big and they're going to be physical up front. So we got to utilize that game to get ready for the following week, which is Douglas. And so you got to continue to just prepare your kids for these tough challenges because, again, people don't give our district the credit that they deserve, but every team in our district is getting better, and we got to continue to play the games before the district game. We got to play them tough and play them hard because our district, they're going to play us just as tough as they're going to play anybody else. They're going to play us probably harder just because they want to try to, they want to try to beat us too. We've been winning the last 2 years, the district. So, I mean, it's only fair and only right for them to come out and try to take us out this year. So,
well, Coach McPeak, we know you play Highlands this Friday night. We wish you good luck in that one.
Appreciate
Fort
it.
Thomas, I'm very familiar with Highlands. I covered their games for about 15 years. Bob Spires up there now.
Yep, Bob.
Trying to get it. Ever since Dale Mueller left, they haven't won a state title. But anyway, they're trying to get it going.
He's got a good group. He called me wanting to play, so I knew they weren't going to be bad. I don't get too many of them calls.
Yeah, you know they want to play when the coach calls you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're good, man. He's got a good team.
Yeah, well, it's great having you guys on the show. We look forward to the season. We open up with the ecampus.com bowl over to LCA. We've got a doubleheader, Bryan Station, South Warren, and then what's the second game, Jared Peck? LCA and North Hardin. There'll be two good ball games over
North
there.
Hardin will be athletic.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Great job, Jayhawk, and
appreciate
Nathan
it. Thanks for having us, guys. Appreciate what you do.
Thank
luck.
you for coming in. Good luck.
thank y'all so much.
To it. Okay, Jared Peck. Thank you, Jared.
I didn't mean to steal your
And
thunder. I just need
you're
to go.
welcome.
Nah,
Good
And
to see you, man. Yeah.
we'll
Like that, if you
we'll
come
take
back
a
over
break.
sometime, talk
We'll
to
take a
them.
break, and we'll be back
I'll holler at you
on the
about
coaches
it.
show with a couple
All right,
more
Lee.
coaches. Wes Johnson and John Lawson coming up after this.